Everybody? What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Scotty Talks NBA. I'm still ironing out that mute after the intro comes on there, but welcome to another episode of Scotty Talks NBA, brought to you by DSM Media. Be sure to give DSM Media a follow on Twitter at DSM_media. You can find myself at Scotty Drown. I'm your host, and I am accompanied by my very special guest that is here with me every Tuesday, although the last two Tuesdays we have not been here because I have been either sick or in Vegas. So, and you might be able to find both of those together. But welcome back to the show, my man. I'm happy to dive into what we're going to get into today, which is the young cores across the NBA under the age of 24. So that's something that we have to pinpoint there because there's a lot of good and great young cores out there in the NBA. But how are you doing on this fine Tuesday, my man?
Dude, I was just running down my crazy day and life with these three children, these pet. No, I'm just kidding.
Different life.
Yeah, but no, life is good. Glad summer league is over. I'm ready for FIBA. It'll be more exciting for me. Summer league was just all right. There's a couple good moments, but yeah, I'm ready for some big trades and get ready for training camp. But FIBA is going to be cool, and there's always good stuff to talk about in the off season. The thing with these young cores, though, I mean, you'll see people say 25 and under. You'll see people do 22 and under. Yeah. So it's key to focus on that 24 and under.
Yeah, make sure that is known across this discussion. Cores 24 and younger. That eliminates the likes of Jason Tatum, 25 years old, right? SGA out of OKC, 25 years old. So eliminates the likes of those type of guys that are just above that age of 24. So just keep that in mind. You brought up the FIBA, which I'm interested in. And I wanted to talk about that a little bit just because, you know, over the last 2 weeks, you mentioned you're waiting for these big trades to happen. It's like the league has been at a standstill for the most part, right? You're waiting on the Dame shoe to drop. You're waiting on the Harden shoe to drop. So it's almost like we haven't missed too much aside from the summer league play that was played over the last 2 weeks, which, like you said, it wasn't too much going on there. Victor didn't play too much in that. Scoot didn't play too much in there. You know, all of the top draft picks didn't get too much time during that summer league play. I wanted to ask you, though, because I may be a little bit out of the loop when it comes to FIBA. The French national team, did they declare who all is going to be on that team so far? I know it was up in the air. I imagine Joel Embiid is not joining that team. Rudy Gobert, is he joining that team officially?
Yes, he is. In Minnesota, we're pretty pissed about it because he got injured going into the season last time. And people now are making a big deal because Ant's playing, but it's like Ant's freaking 23 years old. Like,
it's a little different.
It's good for him. You level up when you play in the FIBA and the Olympic Games, and I mean, it's only good, especially when he can tamper with some of these other guys and build some friendships.
Fair.
The crazy thing is Batum and Fournier are playing, and they're old as fuck. Like, you go down the list of this team, there's some really old guys playing, which respect them. Nando De Colo, he's got to be upper 30s now. France is going to be awesome again just because they know how to play together, and they got some stud overseas guys.
Fournier always looks like an all-star level player, maybe even superstar level whenever he's in FIBA and world play, man. It's kind of crazy how those guys elevate. Is Victor playing? I may have missed that as well.
No, he's not.
Yeah. That's probably, you know, in the best interest of San Antonio as well. Just got to see what he looks like in the NBA first. But nonetheless, who's the matchup you're looking forward to the most in that FIBA group?
Canada. I'm looking forward to seeing Canada because they're loaded. I mean, SGA's playing, RJ Barrett, Zach Edey, and that's a big name. Lugens Dort, Dylan Brooks, Phil Scrubb, Thomas Scrubb, Kevin Pangos, Kelly Olynyk, Jamal Murray after his deep run. They're loaded from top to bottom. Kyle Alexander, so they got a lot of young guys too, and Nickeil Alexander Walker, Timberwolf, and so cousin of Shea. But yeah, Corey Joseph, the list goes on. Melvin Edgem.
Now, do you think they can go head to head with US? Because I looked at their rosters, like, side by side, and it looked, I mean, it looked like it would be a really good game. Mind you, guys like RJ Barrett, those type of guys for Canada, they're going to turn up all the way on that team. We've seen great things from RJ, even in his play with Canada. I think Nick Nurse is coaching that team as well, so they got a good
Yeah,
coach
that's
ahead of
crazy.
them. I
I
mean,
keep forgetting that.
yeah, it's just loaded, man. But that being said, we'll talk a bunch about a couple of those guys amongst these young groups that we're going to talk about today. Before we dive into the young cores, we're going to rank them our top 10 just to give a heads up to all the viewers out there. So you'll get my top 10 cores, you'll get Zach's top 10 cores. We'll go from there. Before we get into that, I did just want to get your thoughts as a Sixers fan. Obviously, Joel Embiid had some choice words that were shown via video on an interview with Maverick Carter, basically saying, his main goal in the future is to win a championship. But the key in that quote is that he says, win a championship in Philly or somewhere else. He doesn't know, however that will play out in the future. That is not up to him. Obviously set Sixers Twitter, Philadelphia on fire Monday morning. Just hearing that quote. I actually got done my morning show with my buddy Dylan, and right after I saw the quote, and I was just like, my God, what did this dude just do? Mind
Yeah.
you, Joel Embiid is a well-known troll in this city. He goes by Joel Embiid. So he kind of pinpointed to that afterwards, saying that he was trolling. Just wanted to get your quick thoughts on that situation. If you were a Sixers fan, would you be panicking right now? And would it be from that, or would you already be in panic mode given the amount of drama that's already transpiring in Philadelphia?
I mean, you guys are always on the edge. Let's be honest. I mean, you guys haven't had things easy in a long ass time. It's a daily pressure check. I mean, your blood pressure's through the roof. I mean, my thing is you just gotta kind of live with it at this point, and it's out of your control, and just react when shit happens. But this one doesn't surprise me. I mean, we've known has wanted to win. He says stuff like this forever, but
Yeah,
actions speak louder than words. I mean, he doesn't take much accountability. I think he could do a lot more in that area. But yeah, if I'm Joel, I'm pissed that he didn't get his running mate Harden back. I mean,
yeah,
if I'm Joel, all I'm looking at this is Daryl Morey not getting it done,
yeah,
because that's all you can think about, because he's like, it's not his money, pay the motherfucker. You
yeah,
know, that's that. He loved playing with James. They're bros. It worked great. He had his best year ever. Like, I understand from Joel's aspect, and bad trade here has really jeopardized the relationship. Absolutely.
yeah,
I mean, the words, I mean, they're concerning just because, I mean, it's just the team isn't good enough. At
yeah,
the end of the day, like, it's not that Joel, you're concerned he's going to be asking out. Is this team always just going to be in limbo? Is there ever going to be any stability for this guy? Like,
yeah,
it's almost, depending on who the Sixers get back for James, it might be better that they would have maxed Harden out, to be honest, and with jeopardizing losing Embiid here. Like, it all is going to depend on the return. Like I've said this whole time, like, I'm not
yeah,
blaming Morey, I'm not blaming Harden until I know, one, the numbers, like what we're being thrown around, two, the return you get for Harden. Like,
yeah,
I don't I don't know who to blame here, but I do know, like, if I had to choose, like, gun to my head right now, I'd lean more towards Morey, because they have had this ongoing relationship, and it doesn't seem like he was honest with them. But like,
yeah.
I have no idea, so I'm not gonna like. There's not a gun in my head right now, so I'm not gonna have
Right.
to make that decision.
Yeah,
Uh, but yeah,
exactly.
Harden's probably if the numbers weren't anywhere reasonable, anywhere like close to Kyrie, which that's what would have been reasonable in my estimation,
Yeah,
to the Kyrie contract, then Harden's probably to blame a good amount.
yeah,
But that's for another day. It's going to be super interesting to see how this unfolds. But no, I'm not worried about Joel Embiid. I'm worried about, because as a Sixers fan, all you care about is winning, and you always say this,
right.
like, it's not the player I'm tied to, it's the franchise, and I respect that. And it's like, that's what true fandom is. I mean,
Yeah.
it's at the end of the day, you make that known. Are you a fan of the player, fan of the team? And I've always been a fan of the team as well.
Yeah.
I've never followed players around. That's just
Yeah.
not who I am, and it's my stance on fandom. So
Yeah. Likewise.
regardless, with or without Embiid, the team's not good enough right now. So
Yeah.
you tell me I get James Harden leaves, I get a shitty package back, and Embiid asks out, and I get Bam Adebayo, Tyler Hero, and 20 picks. Yeah, let's go. I'm good.
Yeah.
Peace
Yeah.
out,
No.
Embiid.
I do honestly feel you. And there is, the other side of that conversation, which you obviously pinpoint the Sixers. There's been no stability next to Embiid, and that's fair because you've seen Ben Simmons go out the door, you've seen Jimmy Butler go out the door, so on and so forth. Now James Harden's the next up, and that superstar, all-star level player that's going to exit the Sixers. And we don't know what's going to return, but nonetheless, whatever is return, it's going to be another new experience on top of a new head coach for Embiid with this Sixers roster. And to your point,
Yeah.
it's just not good enough right now, regardless, right? And, thinking about that, the other side of that conversation is that Embiid just hasn't been good enough in the
Correct.
playoffs. He hasn't been
Accountability.
healthy enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, availability. And this is something you've been preaching to me for feels like years now about Joel Embiid and the last couple of seasons. As great as he's been when he's on the court, you got to be on the court and you got to be effective when you're on the court your highest ability. And he has just not been that in the playoffs. So there is a part of me that feels, do you move off of Embiid before the going gets tough and before the value goes down? Because, I mean, if he goes out this season, right, and this is a throwaway season, whatever, Harden is holding out, or you trade Harden for scraps and you're looking forward to next offseason, the max slots, Embiid goes out here, knock on wood, tears up his knee again. I mean, his value is just shot down completely.
Right.
And so there is a part of me that's like, man, do you just sell the MVP at his highest point right now and get a platoon back of draft capital, young players, and maybe one star, maybe one potential star player? Maybe that's the right route. But obviously, I'm not going to go that route as of right now. Joel Embiid has not demanded a trade out, so we don't have to jump to those conclusions just yet.
It's not dumb though to try to think about
dumb.
being proactive too, because if you ran the same course enough times, you've tried different combinations with Embiid, you know how far Embiid can take it. You know how much talent you need around him, in order to make this thing work. So if there's a blowout package somebody's offering under the table, like I would consider it. I really would. I'm with you.
Yeah.
And here's the thing: you've mentioned too with holding Harden hostage. Like, and you're one of few people that you're not willing to sell short on this. And I praise you for that, because there's no way Harden's gonna put on a fat suit. There's no way.
Can't
Like,
afford to.
he's gonna be a little disappointed, but he's gonna realize like he's got one option. Okay.
Yeah.
Daryl Morey gave him the F you. You can be as pissed at Daryl as you want, but like this is your chance. I mean, you got to go get paid here or you don't. Like,
Exactly.
so like
And
his back's against the wall, and I'm a guy that would say F you to more players than not. And I think it works. I think it will. I think as a businessman in a franchise, like Morey, he's got to admit he screwed up to Harden. Like,
that's the first step,
right.
I think. That's the first step.
Like, if you want Harden to stay, first plead to him and tell him, be begging I guarantee Harden would pick up Morey's call. He's gonna read your text message. He doesn't have them blocked. He will. There's a way.
Yeah. No, I feel you. And it's not the fans that need to do that. It's not the Sixers as a whole that need to do that. It's just Daryl Morey that needs to mend that relationship. Say, hey, I think we were just not on the same page. Like, there's nothing wrong with not being on the same page. We may have jumped the gun having you opt in. We would have given you this whatever the case may be. Get him to play. And I think that is something that Harden will consider, like you said, because at the end of the day,
be the better liar.
Exactly. At the end of the day, this is a business. You just make it work. And like he does have a friendship with Joel Embiid. We've seen that on and off the court.
He loves his teammates.
He loves his teammates.
Nobody
There's
said
no way
anything
around that.
negative with him. And
PJ Tucker, Patrick Beverley, all of these guys, Montrezl Harrell, they all speak highly of James Harden and wanting to play with him. Even Tyrese Maxey wants to play with James Harden. It's going to make their lives easier as well. And to that point, man, to your point, there's no way that he comes out in the fat suit. I know everybody's like talking about it, but that would be almost, I don't want to say career suicide because there's always going to be somebody out there that will value him and his talent will just outweigh the risk or whatever the case may be, right? He'll give you all the reassurances after that point. But it is borderline career suicide when you're talking about it from a financial standpoint of a multi-year contract, right? Guarantees. Right. That is a career suicide. It's a financial suicide for the rest of his career. And it's just not something that he can afford for a game that it seems like he loves playing. So just play basketball, man.
Yeah. And I don't think it's ever been about effort for him, to be honest. Like, I firmly believe that. I think in his moments, his downfalls, there's just something up here that, I mean, it's nerves, man.
Yeah.
I watched the Shaun White documentary, and that dude got scared shitless every time he hit the fucking mat. Like it's all about being the best that's being uncomfortable. Like that's what life is. That's what the greatest athletes, like, nobody's 100% confident all the time, even if they act like it. So
yeah, exactly, man. Exactly. Nonetheless, Morey, he hops on the radio station today, expresses himself, talks about how Sixers fans should just relax about the roster construction in July. I think that's fair. I think that's fair to say. But when you're trolling the fans on Twitter openly, I think that's when you kind of, contradict yourself.
He's fallen short, man. Tobias Harris has been there. He's been over. Like, nah, I'm not.
You can't tell me there's not a trade package out there for Tobias Harris that makes this team better. You can't tell me that, man. On an expiring contract,
Patrick Beverley can't be your only move. He can't be in it.
Right. Like,
Mo Bamba's not bad. I'll give you the Mo Bamba one. I was pretty happy about that.
I like it. It just can't be your only move to have like 5 centers on the roster with Joel Embiid. It's just a little ridiculous. But I also wanted to ask you really quick. We can make this super quick. But what do you think about the report about Bradley Beal becoming the focal point at point guard for the Phoenix Suns now that they've traded away Cameron Payne? I know you weren't high on Payne anyways as a point guard for them anyways. But thoughts on Bradley Beal as a point guard, a facilitator for this team, man?
Yeah, my thing is Point Beal. I mean, he's never been the ultimate decision maker. I mean, he can dribble the ball well enough, but I think he's a guy you can put pressure on and trap. And like Pat Beverly could own him if you want, but at his peak, Lou Dort can get up in his shit. But like, I believe there's a world the three of them can switch off. Okay. I believe there's a world that can happen, but I still think perfect scenario is even just like you go less than a Tyus Jones even, man. I mean, you can take it back. I'd have to go down the list or whatever, but like even like an Isaiah Thomas type, but somebody that's a little bigger and can play defense. But there's somebody out there, Ricky Rubio even.
I like that actually.
He's still out there, I think.
Yeah, Cleveland. They don't need him.
Right. I guess he's on Cleveland yet. I thought he was still a free agent, but
he might be a restricted or he might be a free. I just saw him listed on the roster, so that could have been old.
But yeah, just somebody who's a true point guard, man, and I think they need just a super that's not thinking score first. All those guys, no matter what, are going to be thinking score first. Like it's who they are. But Booker has proven over like a 20 game sample size, 30 game, he can handle the reins and win a lot of games. Like Beal has not. Like, sure, he's done it. Doesn't mean it's been successful. So for Booker's number one option, whoever Shams said that, and he just trying to get some smoke going in the air. So
and
I wouldn't read too much into that.
Because Booker is the guy that I would point to as, your guy that you would want to run that position. But then it's like, do you want to restrict Booker to having this mindset of facilitation, right? Like he's just such a prolific scorer. I mean, yeah, you're right. There's plenty of guys out there, honestly, right now. I mean, George Hill's a little old. Grand Tragic, those guys are old. Michael Carter Williams, DJ Augustine. I
Drag
didn't even know he was still in.
Dragic is probably going to get picked up, but I'd still
Yeah,
probably rather have Isaiah Thomas than him. Like I truly think Isaiah Thomas should be in the NBA. I will
yeah,
die on that hill. But um, I saw the list. I don't have the free agent list in front of me, but I saw it the other day, and there's some guys out there that can still play point. I'm not going all the way to like Mike James, but
yeah.
who was brought in for
Looks like
tryout.
what? Kemba Walker, John Wall, Ish Smith. These guys are all old. Kendrick
Okay,
Nunn.
try John Wall. I didn't.
Yeah, I would
I
try
don't
John
think.
Wall.
I
Why
think he
not?
deserves one last chance.
Yeah, why not? He's got some size to him, obviously. They got options. Yeah, they got options nonetheless. It'll be interesting to see because they've been able to fill out the roster pretty well, aside from not being able to get a prototypical point guard. But they filled out the roster pretty well with guys like Bol and Eric Gordon. Getting Eric Gordon, that was huge too. Let's get into these young cores, though. That's what we're going to spend the bulk of the time here, though, on, my man. How do you want to do this, though? I'll throw it to you. Do you want to start at 10? How do you want to go through these? Kind of go from
Go back
lowest
and
to highest?
Go back and forth, starting at 10.
All right. So let me go ahead and throw mine to you. At number 10, and I do have some honorable mentions listed here, but we'll wait till the end to throw those guys in there. I have Charlotte with LaMelo, Brandon Miller, obviously the new draft pick, and then guys like Mark Williams, a little bit younger, James Bouknight. Who else do they got in there? PJ Washington, if they're able to sign him back, I think that would be a good thing for them to keep him. But overall, the main thing for me, LaMelo Ball, is what really puts them up there for me. I'm really high on him, despite his injury history. And I do like Brandon Miller out of the draft. I don't like him as much as Scoot and obviously Victor, but I do like him at that third spot in the draft. Interested on your thoughts on Charlotte. Who do you have at number 10? However you want to go about this, my man.
I love Charlotte, and I won't say where I have them yet,
Fair.
but everybody you mentioned, the only guy you didn't mention that I'm super high on, Mark Williams from Duke. I think he's going to
Mark
be
Williams.
a long-time NBA center. I think Bouknight, Kai Jones, I think they have a very deep core. And you know what's crazy is Miles Bridges still classifies. He's 24 right now. And so,
I did not
no,
know that.
sorry. Never mind. Nope. Sorry. Never mind. No Miles Bridges. No Miles Bridges. He doesn't count.
Okay, is he 25?
Yeah, he's 25. Yes.
Gotcha.
But no, LaMelo, my thing is I think LaMelo's capped out at like a top 15 player. I don't think he can ever get a top 10, do you?
15, top 10. It's tough, man. He's what? Let me look at him. He's a 6'7" point guard. 23 points, 6 rebounds, 8 assists, 41% from the field. What was his 3-point shooting? 37% from 3 last year. He's a prolific playmaker.
Dude.
Top 10, though. Top 10, right? I would probably lean top 15 if I'm going to give out guarantees. I would say top 15 rather than top 10.
So just a little rule of thumb, he's number 50 on my Twitter player rankings right now. And I expect him to crack top 30 by next year. I just think this team's going to take a huge jump. I love Brandon Miller. I think Brandon Miller is tremendous. I think he's got all-star potential. The fits are there. They just got to get this thing done and move it in the right direction. They got a little bit of everything. But my number 10 here was the Cleveland Cavaliers. Okay. Darius Garland, Evan Mobley, Isaac Okoro. That's basically it. Evan Mobley and DG, though, I think DG is equal to LaMelo. He's better than him right now in my estimation, but ceiling wise, I think he's very equal. And I just think Evan Mobley. It's tough though when you bring in everybody else there in Charlotte. They have more. They obviously have quantity, but the quality of DG and Evan, I put them ahead of Brandon Miller and LaMelo. That's what it comes down to for me.
Yeah.
I mean, Mark Williams obviously so much ahead of Okoro, but I think Mobley will be an all-star. DG should have another game in him, but yeah, I like the Cavs at 10.
I like the Cavs.
Did
I
they
will.
did they crack your top 10?
They did. They did.
All
So
right.
I'll be sure to let you know once they come up here. But yeah, I do like the Cavs. I agree with everything you said regarding Garland and LaMelo.
Their
Evan
situation is
Mobley.
better right
Yeah,
now, so that helps.
obviously, yeah, and that's a fair point because you have Donovan Mitchell there, you have Jared Allen to kind of groom Evan Mobley even. But I do like Evan Mobley as well, along with Darius Garland. I think Evan Mobley has all-star potential, obviously Defensive Player of the Year potential.
He was in it.
Just a very good, versatile player. That's what I like about him. He's very versatile. He can do a little bit of everything for you. And I expect him to become a better shooter even as far as spacing the floor in the future as well. He has the skill set for it. But coming in at number 9 for me is actually your Minnesota Timberwolves, man.
Oh.
And it's actually crazy because, I'm looking at the core there. Obviously, it's Ant Edwards, right? He's the prolific, the superstar. And maybe, just maybe, that's what's dragging these guys into my top 10 at number 9.
It absolutely is, man.
Yeah, because, Ant Edwards, he's the whole package, man. There's not, really a weakness in his game that I see. What do I look at Ant Edwards' game and say, he can't get better at that? There's not a lot of those traits on him. So when you talk about him compared to a LaMelo Ball, do I think Ant Edwards could end up being a top 10 player in this league? Absolutely. I do think Ant Edwards could end up being a top 10 player
3
in this league. Yeah. Hey, top 5. I'll give you top 5 because he has all of the attributes, man. He can shoot the rock. He can dribble. He can handle the ball. He obviously has the athleticism. But the main thing, he has that dog in him, right? And that's the separator of Ant Edwards versus some of these other guys. But then also Naz Reid, McDaniels, obviously he's a bright spot. I think he's only 22. Naz Reid, 23, just signed him to a contract extension. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who you mentioned earlier, I actually
very underrated.
It's very underrated. That's the best way to put it. I was going to say he has a little bit of potential there that I feel has been untapped in the NBA. Just, kind of him just having to travel from team to team and find his spot within these teams and figure out his role. So I think he has some room to grow there in Minnesota. But overall, it's Ant Edwards, man. He's pioneering this group into the top 10. He's just that much of a talent for me.
So Jaden McDaniels, Nickeil, I wouldn't necessarily call Naz Reid underrated yet. I think he's properly rated, but those two guys, and now our second-round pick, Leonard Miller, should get a lot of playing time this year. I think he's a stud and should have been a first-round pick. I had him first-round grade on my board. Dude can play small ball 5. He can guard maybe some 2s, but 3 through 5 for sure.
Only 19 too.
Just a dog coming from the G League. But I love my Wolves. I got them a bit higher, but
fair enough.
Ant could have the highest ceiling on this board besides maybe Luka. It all depends. I definitely think Ant's defense is going to be, it is for sure better than Luka right now, but it's going to be better for his entire career. So it's all about the rest of the game. But Luka is the only argument for ceiling wise, unless Trae Young or I don't know, you'd have to come up with a really strong argument for me. But my number 9, I'm guessing you don't have these guys on your list. Maybe you do, but the Portland Trailblazers.
Okay, so they did not make my top 10. They were an honorable mention. I will put that out there.
Which do you have them ranked?
Portland. So just to be clear, my honorable mentions were Indiana, Detroit, and Portland. No specific order there.
All right. So, that's going to be something. But Portland, all right. So you got Keon Johnson, Shaedon Sharpe, Anthony Simons averaging 20 already.
Yes, sir.
Jabari Walker, Kevin Knox, Nasir Little, Scoot Henderson's the headliner, Chris Murray, Ryan Rupert, John Butler, yes. And so they're a deep core. They have 3 guys with pretty high ceilings and Shaden Sharp, Scoot Henderson, and then I like to say Simons can get a little better. I don't know how much better, but
Yeah.
I think he can get better.
Yeah. More fine-tuned.
Yeah. So they are just missing guys that can show defense in the backcourt. Okay, I love
Yeah.
Nasir Little. I think he's going to be a great 3 for them if they go that route. But Shaden Sharp is also there. They can't play the 3 guards at Shaden Sharp and Little. So one of those 3, Shaden, Simons, and Scoot, is going to have to play defense, or it's just not going to work.
Yeah.
That's why I also thought Dame. I mean, obviously the Dame train has ran, but that's why I also thought even if Dame stayed, like 4 shitty defenders is not going to ever work.
Yeah.
Period. At
Yeah.
the guard spot. So one of those 3, I'm thinking Scoot's got the best chance, but I don't know, man. I think they're gonna have to trade at some point. Simons
Yeah.
would be the number one.
He would
I'd
be the
sell
guy.
I'd sell high on Simons sooner than later and try to
Yeah.
find some defense like Lou Dort even.
Yeah.
Marcus Smart would have been unreal there. Uh, but yeah, I mean Simon's efficiency is nice compared to Scoots coming in, and Shaden Sharp's already efficient. But I don't know. Some people might believe in Shaden Sharp's D, and it could work out. It's just
He's
finding
athletic enough, right? Like, it's just about
yes.
putting in the effort to become a great defender in the NBA. So a lot of
That,
guys just don't have that in him, right?
those 3 could be the most athletic trio
Yeah.
of guards in the league.
Yeah.
It could get freaky there for sure.
Absolutely.
Um, they all have a body and the athleticism to play good defense. It's just do they want to and will they? So Portland though, like I would say if that core stuck together, like I'd have them capped out right now at like a first round exit until I see any defense. So it's hard to crack the top 5 without any championship aspirations, in my opinion.
That's fair. I think that's fair. And looking at Portland, the reason I ultimately kept them off because you mentioned the 3 guards. I mean, those guys alone could help them crack this list. I guess when I was examining some of these young cores, I was looking for versatility and fit as well.
Hmm.
And it was just the clunky fit of all those guards for me that kept them off the list. If they just had one athletic forward mixed in there, right, or some athletic big guy mixed in there, then maybe just maybe I could have put them up a little bit higher. But it was really just that log jam of guards that kind of left me in no man's land with Portland, for all the reasons that you mentioned. But I will say the talent alone between those 3 guys, 3 to 4 guys, you could say, you could definitely argue them onto this list. So I would agree with you there.
Sharper Simons long term. I'm going Sharp. It's a tough one, man, because Simons is averaging 20 already and
I know.
bouncy, but I just like Sharp's body enough.
And I love the limitless range of Simons. I think that's something that is always appealing to me, just a guy with that type of quick trigger. But overall player, I would probably have to go with Shaden Sharp just for
Give me the
what he
3
can
inches.
become. Yeah, yeah, literally. Literally that alone, plus the athleticism. I think he's a little bit more athletic than Simons, or maybe even a lot more athletic. He can become a better defender. He can become a better overall player. I think Simons is just always going to be that guy that is like a microwave, right? He can just light you up for 30, of course, any night. But in the other aspects of the game, how effective is he really going to be on a night-to-night basis? So I would go with Sharp right now, but it is very close in that sense. Number 8, the team you had mentioned earlier, Cleveland. That's where Cleveland Cavaliers come in for me. I don't need to dive into them too much. You've already kind of covered them. Darius Garland, prolific player, all-star caliber player already in his career. Evan Mobley, I love that duo of them both being under 24. When you talk about 2 all-star caliber players there on their team. And then, of course, Isaac Okoro. He's just kind of the guy you throw in for the trio of the young core. But I do love Darius Garland and Evan Mobley at number 8 here.
Do you think Garland can get any better? I think he's pretty capped, honestly, and it's a good cap, but like I just, especially with the team they have, like Mobley's going to
I
get a lot
know.
better. It's just all depends.
Mitchell really kind of caps Garland for me,
Agreed.
right? Like they're just so similar. They're similar size or similar in their capabilities, except Mitchell can probably, I don't know. I don't want to say that out front and say that Mitchell can, score the lights out even more than Darius Garland. But
it's hard to call a 23-year-old cap too.
I know.
Extremely hard.
He's a guy that obviously works really hard at his craft as well. What could he get better at? I guess is the question, right?
IQ,
Consistency,
playmaking, passing. I mean, he's not an elite playmaker, passer by any means. He's elite shooter. He's getting there scoring wise. I mean, he definitely can get better in all those categories.
Yeah.
But
I think from that perspective, playing with Donovan Mitchell, where he could ultimately improve playmaking, facilitating, right, getting guys in the right spots. Just becoming that prototypical point guard for that team. That's where he could excel for me. So I wouldn't cap him, but how much better can he really get, right, on a scale?
Like, say at his peak right now, he's been a top 20 player. I just don't ever see him cracking like the top 15. I just don't.
6'1" point guard without the. He doesn't have like the Kyrie Irving package, right? Like that legitimate, all-time level type of package. So he can get better, but cracking top 20, top 15 even, I don't see it. There's just going to be guys that are better than him. Who do you got at number 8?
So number 8, I won't touch on this very long either, but obviously they're my team, so I might be a little biased. It's the start of tier 1, and Ant is the only reason they puts him there. Jaden helps, obviously. He's a solid number 2 piece. I really believe he can become a borderline all-star as a two-way guy. He was screwed over on all defense last year. He could have easily made the top 10 defenders. Most people in Minnesota believe. He did get some votes, but what separates them from everybody and above them here in tier 1 is the depth of young talent. Everybody else has got a plethora for sure. But like my tier 2 started with Portland at 9 and went all the way down to Toronto at 16. And it mainly revolves around, I mean, your star player, obviously. But I mean, like I said, the depth will separate them. And I truly think Ant's got top 5 MVP potential. Will he get there? That's another thing. I think he's unlike Darius Garland, will be in and out of the All-Star. Darius will be lucky if he hits another All-Star game, just because of the team he has. And I expect him to make it every year now.
That's fair, yeah, and I think you bring up a good point because it's like, how much do you weigh how much better Ant can be than Darius Garland versus Garland and Mobley, right? And then obviously you throw McDaniels in on the other side for Minnesota, Naz Reid. That's interesting, yeah, because I have those teams back to back. We kind of just
Call me crazy.
10.
Here's a hot take. There's a world where Jaden McDaniels could become as good as Evan Mobley throughout their careers, just because
from
the
opportunity standpoint. Yeah.
I think if Mobley was in Charlotte right now, he'd be borderline an all-star. If not, he's a borderline all-star right now, in my opinion, just because he's so good defensively. He doesn't have the usage. Okay. I mean, you switch him and Julius Randle, like Knicks fans might be a lot happier right now. I truly believe he's this good of a player. It's just the offense revolves around the guards and they work everybody else. And like Mobley's puts up the numbers he does with 23% usage. Like, it's astonishing. Like, people do not give this guy the credit that he deserves. He just makes it work. And do I think the team's still going to get him involved more? It's unsure. You bring in shooters like Max Strus, and they had another great signing. So it's going to be hard.
Yeah, George Niang.
Yeah, Niang was going to get some minutes off him. And
That is interesting. When you put Jaden McDaniels next to Evan Mobley, because you saw the difference in Minnesota when Jaden McDaniels was gone for the rest of the season last year in the postseason. I mean, it crippled
He's
them
everything.
defensively.
Oh, he's
Yeah,
everything. He might be more valuable on defense than Rudy already for us,
yeah.
and that's insane to think about.
Only 22. So yeah, maybe a very underrated piece in this conversation, right? Jaden McDaniels. No, I can accept that at number
If
8.
you had him instead of Tobias last year, I think you guys beat Boston. That's how good I think Jaden McDaniels is.
I think that's fair. Yeah, I think that would be the perfect example of a guy that you could literally switch right into Tobias's
Right.
spot, and boom,
Roll.
that's a better team already. Boom. And that's it's funny because I felt that way in a sense about Jalen McDaniels when we had him on the roster. I thought throw him into the starting lineup around
Man.
James Harden, Tyrese Maxey, Joel Embiid. He's a guy, he's so athletic, lengthy. You talk about all the issues with Tobias finishing around the rim. That's just something that these guys won't deal with being as long as they are. But yeah, Jaden McDaniels, he's in a whole other ballpark than his brother. So it's
Right.
interesting, man. Number 7 for me. Number 7 for me. And I'm interested to see where you have this team because I know they'll be in your top 10. But I have OKC at number 7. And I have guys mentioned here: Lou Dort, Chet Holmgren, the two Jalen Williams, right? Jalen with the IN, Jalen with the EN, Josh Giddey, of course, even down to guys like Isaiah Joe, who I'm familiar with, who actually went there, found a nice role for himself last season. Who are some other guys? Trey Mann, Cason Wallace, Ty Washington, Aaron Wiggins. I might be having the wrong Wiggins there, but
Their whole team besides Shea, really.
the whole team besides Shea, basically. And it's crazy because a year ago you could have included SGA in there, and that might have propelled them into the top 3, maybe even number 1, with a guy of that caliber. But I have them at number 7. I guess because Shea is not in the mix here. But I am very high, and it almost felt wrong for me to have them at number 7, if I'm being honest. But just given the teams in front of them that I like a little bit more with the players that are included in this group, I had to put them at number 7. But you talk about Chet Holmgren. What can he really become in the NBA? I mean,
Unicorn,
man. That's the perfect description. You talk about the Kristaps Porzingis, the Joel Embiids of the world. You can go down a list of these unicorn-esque players that are just uniquely skilled. He's going to be a menace on the defensive end when it comes to protecting the rim, shot blocking. But he can score the ball effortlessly too. You could even look at him in that Evan Mobley scope in a sense, right? But even Jalen Williams, and I'm sorry if I got the spelling wrong here because I always get the two confused. But there's obviously one that I like a little bit more than the other, and I just have to see the picture to confirm here. So it's Jalen with the Jalen, right?
Jalen Williams. Wing, yeah, and then the YLIN is the center.
Exactly. So I do like LEN a little bit more than YLIN.
Oh. One's got borderline all-star potential.
Exactly.
The other's praying to be a starter.
Exactly. So I do like this group, man. Josh Giddey's another player. I don't know how high you are on him, but I love the versatility, the skill set that he brings, and he seems like he has a good head on his shoulders as well. And the thing that makes me most excited about this group of guys is that they're excited to play with each other, right? And that's going to be a big thing going forward. You see how excited Giddey is to play with Chet. Lou Dort, he just got a big contract, so hopefully he can show some signs of improvement this season as well. He's only, 24 this year? Yeah, 24 years old. And then obviously, I know we can't include SGA, but that team has just got a really bright future with draft capital on top of all of what we're talking about here.
Yeah, so Shea and the coach, Mark Daigneault, matter. They definitely, situation matters. They're only going to make those guys better. I think Daigneault's super underrated, and once they make the playoffs again this year, he's going to be on the map. Yeah. But here's my
you got him as a playoff team. Just a quick pinpoint there. Yes.
Just going to throw them in there. My shocker of the show, where I'm going to get a lot of flack for, and I love Jalen, like I said, he could be an all-star, but it's tough for me to predict that with the
Yeah.
depth they got there. Chet Holmgren could end up being a top 10 player, but it's more likely he ends up top 30, top 25, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I'd put more money there. If they had Shea in this core, they'd be number one for me. But I
Yeah.
have OKC at 14.
Wow. That's
Yeah, they're my
interesting,
tier
though.
2.
Is it just because of the star power element?
Correct. It's just because for me, I think the outcome of Chet and Jalen are so like 50-50 almost.
That's
They're
fair.
so not black and white for me like other players above them. Jalen Williams more so, but like his ceiling's not that high if I had to choose.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
OKC's one that's just going to go up really quickly once I see some Chet for sure. But
Yeah.
as of right now, this is where I got him. I'm not a huge believer, honestly, in anybody else on their team besides Chet, Jalen Williams, and SGA. I think they got good pieces they can fit. It's just how much are they going to develop them, and they're going to have a tough time managing all those minutes for all these guys that
Yeah.
need time.
Because there was a
So I
lot of
think,
guys that we didn't even name there as
oh,
well, right? Like
absolutely.
Petrusev, he's a guy
Like,
that I've
can Lou
seen.
Dort get much better? Like, I think Lou
Right.
Dort can, but like, you got to give Osman dang time. You got to
Yeah.
give Isaiah Joe, Lindy Waters. Like, are these guys gonna take it from him? Like, I like two-way player Keontae Johnson. Even I had him
Yeah.
high on my board.
Yeah.
Poku, what's he got left? But they just picked up Usman Garuba and Ty Washington, bro.
Yeah. Ty Washington. Yeah, man. They're
Like Ty
loaded up.
could. There's a world Ty Washington's better than Case and Wallace. I'm not saying I would pick Ty, but there's a world. So my number 7 here, the Detroit Pistons. That's going to be
Okay.
another shocker for a lot of people. I know a lot of people that would have these guys number 1 or 2. For me, Cade's coming off an injury. Pretty simple as that. I think Cade's ceiling extremely high, but to have an injury that early in his career, that big, to miss that much time, um, and it's Detroit. Like
Yeah.
I need to see
I
some
think.
longevity. Jaden Ivey, honestly,
Yeah.
is unreal. Like I
Yeah. I
love the
love
dude.
his
He had
game.
one of the most underrated rookie years. I mean, 16, almost 17 points a game, 5 assists, had some really big games, and just looked like he belonged. It wasn't like putting up bad stats,
Yeah.
like getting blown out. Like they were good shots. He wasn't a bad shot taker by any means. I love Oscar Thompson.
Yeah.
You
I was
throw
gonna
in
ask you
Jalen
about him.
Duren.
Yeah.
They got really good pieces of what they all have a lot of upside, but their guys also have a lot of downside.
Yeah.
I truly believe Jaden Ivey is gonna like. I don't think he's the perfect fit next to Cade Cunningham. Like,
Right.
and then Oscar Thompson. Like, I'm not a firm believer in like Cade's shot. I do believe in, yes, but Osser and Jaden and Cade, those 3 guys in the court together. No, I'm not a
A
huge
little
believer in
clunky.
that fit yet.
Yeah.
So time will tell. They're
And then you
lucky I
have
have
what?
them at 7.
You have like three solid centers, right? As far as future, you just gave the bag to Isaiah Stewart.
And I don't like that contract. That
Yeah.
matters.
Yeah, I didn't really understand it myself, honestly. Given Jalen Duren, he played really well last year in his time that he got. You have James Wiseman, right, who you acquired from the Warriors. Even Marvin
Still
Bagley
believe in his
the
upside.
third. He's only 24, believe it or not. Which I found that surprising. They got Buddy Boeheim. They got
Buddy,
yeah.
buddy ball.
You know
Let's
what it
go.
was for me, man? Because they got Killian Hayes, they got Jaden, they got guys. I think it was just that Detroit factor why I couldn't put them
Yeah, it
in my top
matters.
10, man. There's just some bad feeling I get about this, mixed with the Cade Cunningham injury early in his career. They did come in at like 11 or 12 for me here, but
Okay.
yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's just the Detroit effect there.
Like
But
the OKC core, like I'm not mad about that pick here. Like the OKC core outside of Shea could easily be better than um, this core of Detroit. But
yeah,
Detroit has all the pieces. It's just the ones that have the highest ceiling don't necessarily fit
don't really
together
fit.
yet. in my opinion.
If somebody can develop like
Because
a consistent jump shot between
right,
Asar and
shooting matters. Like you're getting it from Boyan, who a guy you're thinking about trading. Yeah, no
they picked
thanks.
up Joe Harris, which
That's huge. Like they
yeah,
have the pieces that fit right now. It's just the
Monte
guys with
Morris.
upside. Right. They got good vets too.
Yeah, they got some decent vets
Monty
in there.
Williams, no excuses, bro.
Yeah, hey, and they got a good coach, right? He should be a good coach at least.
Unless he
So
got the bag and he's tapping out. Just kidding. Don't think
yeah,
Monty's ever that guy.
we'll see. We'll see, man. Number 6 for me, and this is another one that just felt kind of low for me. Obviously, I'm just a big, this is part of my Duke pride showing in a sense.
Oh,
But I got the Orlando Magic, and Paolo Banchero, Franz Wagner. I absolutely love his game as well. But Paolo Banchero, I feel like he was just slept on a little bit, even though he won Rookie of the Year, right? His rookie season. He just had such a good rookie season, wasn't talked about very much, I guess, because of the Orlando market. But then you throw in guys with a little bit of room to grow, right? With Wendell Carter Jr., he's still 24 years old. They drafted Anthony Black. I know I believe you weren't too high on that pick.
you're right.
At the time, although still only 19 years old, something to build on. Suggs, obviously 22 years old. Cole Anthony, he's still there. He's only 23 years old. So they have a bunch of guys, right? But it is just about, are these guys actually panning out? It sounds really nice on paper based on where they were drafted, and the pedigrees that they come from. But is it going to pan out? I just love the idea of Franz Wagner and Paolo Banchero. I think those are guys that have all-star level potential, honestly, once they get into their careers. Franz, I think it's a little bit more arguable whether that's the case, right, of his true ceiling. But Paolo Banchero, I just love his game. I felt like he was slept on going into the draft. I feel like he's slept on his rookie year, and kind of just blowing everybody out of the water for the Rookie of the Year with his campaign. But I actually love what the Orlando Magic are doing. I think this draft could have went a little bit better for them based on where they were in the draft, and it could have made this group look a lot better depending on who they could have picked up. But I still like where they're going nonetheless. Number 6.
So I'm just going to quickly gloss over my 6, which is Charlotte. That's where I had Charlotte. And you had Charlotte at 10, so a decent jump there, but understandable. So my 5, like, that's why I wanted to skip. I have Orlando at 5.
Okay.
But it was the hardest pick for me because, one, I don't think they're ever going to figure out this guard situation, but
That's the conundrum.
I just believe in Paulo this much. I think he's got an incredible two-way ceiling. I think I'll be shocked if he doesn't ever hit a top 10 player. I'll be shocked. If he doesn't, something's wrong mentally, but I think he's got the it factor too. Like, he's a dog. I think he wants it. I'm not as high on Franz as everybody else, but I think he's a tremendous role player, can get to be a top 30, 40 guy even.
Versatile.
These guys are here because of Paulo and quantity. They have enough guys that I think somebody's got to turn out good of these guards. Somebody does.
Yeah.
And I believe in them enough. Like, Markelle Fultz just turned 25. So if we would have done this a couple days ago, he'd be in here too. But, and Jonathan Isaac, he's only 22 yet.
Yeah.
Just kidding. Jonathan
25.
Isaac.
I was like, whoa, hold on. I thought he was going in a different direction. Yeah. 25 years old. But nonetheless, just missed the mark as well.
He just got back from a retreat overseas, curing the blind. So, Jonathan Isaac's a godly man. But bless his soul, he needs to come back because they have the fits. They have the fits. They just got to figure out who their two guards are, and then I think they're set. I really do.
Who would your two guards be for this team?
I'm still believing in Suggs, man. I still believe in Suggs. Like, I'm.
So would you go Suggs and Markelle?
Suggs and Fultz, yes. That's my pick.
Yeah.
Like, Jett Howard could even get time here. Maybe Caleb Houston getting some minutes too, even. Like, Chuma Okeke, I haven't written him off yet.
Yeah.
But yeah, my starting lineups: Suggs, Fultz, Franz, Paulo, and Wendell Carter Jr. And Wendell is getting
Yeah.
better by the year. Like, I'm gonna believe in his three sooner than later. And that dude, great two-way player,
Yeah, I agree.
very good vision, very good passer, super underrated all around. And he just those three, the last three fit. It's just figuring out Fultz, Suggs, Black, Cole Anthony, like what's going to work there. Hopefully something does, and hopefully Orlando can get cooking. But they also have a really downside where I could accept them way lower than this.
I think that's
Who did
fair.
you have at 5?
I think that's fair because there is a world where Franz just isn't what everybody thinks he is, right? And he's just a very average player.
All right.
Same with the rest of the guys on the list, aside from Paulo, I believe. So while I'm
So
high on Orlando, there is a downside that is available there for these guys if they don't
yeah.
get their head right on their shoulders, right?
Outside of Paulo, who has the highest ceiling? Is it Franz for you?
Yeah, I'll be honest. I would go with Franz next after Paulo.
It's tough. I think there can be kind of even. I mean, like, if you told me Jalen Suggs or Fultz keeps getting better and beats him, I wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah, that's
But yeah,
exactly where I was gonna go. Either Suggs or Fultz. Now Fultz is obviously a little bit older, but I would go with Franz.
do you
Wendell's in
think
that combo
Paulo?
too, just because I think Wendell can be like a defensive force. I think he can be a great rim protector. And then obviously just add the floor spacing, a little bit of a repertoire in the post, and he can be a really good player. But I think Franz, when you talk about just increasing all of his skill sets, because he's a very versatile guy, I think he
Mm-hmm.
does have a stronger potential there.
Do you think Paulo can be top 5, top 3 ever?
The only concern for me with Paulo is his top level athleticism. I'm wondering, for a power forward, but his game is so smooth,
Look,
and he does have athleticism.
what about like Kawhi? I mean,
That's actually a
Kawhi's
good
sneaky
comparison.
athletic though, but
Yeah.
like I think Paulo's sneaky athletic, but I think Kawhi's probably got a tad bit more. Um,
Yeah, if
Jokic did
Paulo
it, but Jokic is huge.
if Paulo can
Jokic.
knock on wood, avoid injuries that can set him back, I think he has potential to get up to top 5, I would say. But definitely top 10. His skill set, he has the prowess to become a great two-way player, I would say. Yeah.
All right,
I
so they
like
were
Paulo.
my 5. Who's your 5?
Yes, sir. So my 5, this one was actually probably the toughest crossroad for me. I ultimately went San Antonio here with Victor Wembanyama, Devin Vassell, Keldon Johnson, Malachi Branham. They got a couple different guys, right? You can go to Jeremy Sohan. Is that how you say his name?
Yep, yep.
Sohan. Trey Jones, obviously another Duke guy. But I absolutely love Vassell and Victor, obviously being the number 1 pick and potentially, for all we know, right? He could end up being a bust, whatever you would consider him being a bust as. He could also end up the best player in the last 10 years, right? So there's a lot of room for this team depending on where you have Victor and kind of your potential or your ceiling that you have him capped at. But I felt like top 5 was appropriate just because they drafted Victor Wembanyama. It's kind of as simple as that for me there. But I do love guys like Devin Vassell, Keldon Johnson. Those are good pieces to have around Victor with him coming into the league.
So I got the Spurs a little higher, but we can talk about the Spurs now.
Yeah.
I think Malachi, Keldon Johnson, and Vassell are 3 of the most underrated guys in the league. I think they can all become top 40 or better players.
Yeah.
I truly believe that. And so you put them with Victor, that's dangerous, but I don't believe in their point guard situation. So
Yeah.
that
Trey
matters. That
Jones is a little
stunts
clunky.
growth. Right. That stunts growth. So hopefully they can find a way to get somebody. It's
They
not
need a
looking good.
veteran.
Yeah, I mean, they don't have it. So they got Blake Wesley as an option. Devontae Graham is the vet, but I don't think he's going to do much as a playmaking passer. He's more of a
Yeah.
combo guard and a bench combo guard now. It's going to be interesting from the point guard spot. I really think that. And can hold back from others. But would have loved to see Dame go there. I really would have.
Yeah, same. That would have been
But he doesn't
great
have the
for the
balls.
NBA.
Doesn't have the balls.
Yeah, it would have been great for the NBA, but you're right. He doesn't have the balls for that. You think that would jumpstart them right into the playoffs, in my opinion, right? Like,
yeah.
You're talking about Greg Popovich, one of the best coaches of all time, and like you said, Keldon Johnson. He is a guy that is slept on. I believe he's part of Team USA this season, right?
He was in the past. Let's see.
Maybe
if
he got
still
dropped
is.
off. They got guys like Romeo Langford, who's kind of untapped there as well. They brought in Cameron Payne, which once again, I know you're not high
he's
on
not
him.
on this. He's not on this team.
Who? Oh, Keldon Johnson. I got you.
Yep. But
Malachi Branham. They also got Charles Bassey. Obviously, I'm familiar with him from the Sixers. He's a nice, backup center type of option for the future. They got a nice squad. They do just need to get a prototypical point guard, somebody that can be a
maybe
floor
Blake
general
Wesley could surprise some people. Maybe. I know some people still believe in him, but he's a rookie. It takes time.
They'll be able to try some different things out there. That's for sure.
So who you got at 4?
Number 4. This I keep saying this is where it got tough. Number 4 for me is the Houston Rockets. Now, don't get me wrong here, Zach. There was part of me that considered putting them at number 1 because I think they are their talent pool as far as young core is so deep. And you talk about the likes of Jalen Green, Kevin Porter Jr., where it feels like Kevin Porter Jr. has been in the league for like 5 years now. And maybe he has. He might have been. I'm not sure. But he's a guy that obviously has had great seasons in Houston. Jalen Green has had great seasons. But then you get into guys like Terry Eason, who at the very least is going to be a great role player, right? Like at the very least, that's what you're going to get out of Terry Eason. Sengun.
All good.
Sorry, excuse me. Sorry. Sengun, he's another guy, right? Only 20 years old. He's a guy that can get so much better from the center position. Does a little bit of everything. Jabari Smith, right? You go down the list. Amen Thompson, right? The draft pick from this year, which I know you're high on him. But then Cam Whitmore, even, man. They absolutely stole him out of this draft as well to add him to the mix. And he's a guy that could end up being a very good piece for them in the future as well. And I do think, I know it's outside of the young core, but I do think the pieces that they brought in, specifically Fred VanVleet. Now, I know his shooting numbers weren't great last year, but his leadership, the experience that he brings to this team, I think will help out the likes of Jalen Green, Kevin Porter Jr. A lot. But I love what they got going on there, man. I was confused at first on, the idea of bringing James Harden into that mix, what they were trying to do this offseason, which was kind of jumpstart themselves to get to a playoff spot, right? And I think they've done that. They've given themselves a chance to get into the playoffs this season. But they still have so much room to grow. And you bring in a coach, I didn't even think about this, but Ime Udoka, I think he's a guy that's going to get the most out of these guys and take them to an even higher level. But I love Jalen Green's game. I think he's a guy that can, be an all-star level talent type of guard. KPJ, we'll see how much better he can actually get, but he's in a pretty good spot right now, even. But down the line, you could just talk about these guys all day, I feel like, because there's just so much potential here. But this is one of those where it got confusing for me versus the other 3 teams I have above them when it comes to projections. Top level talent, right? Top level talent right now that I already know is superstar level in the NBA. They don't have that yet, but the depth there of the youth core, it's there.
All right, so I won't say where I have Houston yet. They're up a little higher for me, but yeah, man. I love them. I love everything about them. I'll say my notes when I get to them.
Yeah.
The only thing I'd say on what you mentioned would be the James Harden debate. Would James Harden have accepted Fred VanVleet's contract? I don't think he would have. I don't think he would have, because the reason why that contract's awesome, they overpaid for Fred, which was smart because they had to spend their money somewhere, but they overpaid for 2 years when the other guys' contracts will be up. The third year is a team option. That's where James Harden's not accepting that deal. If he would have got 3 years at that number, yeah, I think Harden would have accepted that. I really do.
Yeah.
But also, like, Harden's not willing to ride out the progression, the steps it takes, because this team, you throw Harden in there, they're for sure making the playoffs. Yes,
Yeah.
they would.
Yeah.
I'd almost guarantee that. But would it slow down some of their progressions? Maybe a little bit, because his usage is definitely more than Fred VanVleet, but it could also speed some of them up, and it would. He would actually make some of them better. But where it would also be a headache for Harden is he's trying to win a championship. I really believe that this team is trying to make the playoffs. There's steps to the process. So my number 4 here was the Dallas Mavericks, and super easy for me because Luka, I mean, is Luka, and he's proven, and he's, I mean, you can argue he's a top 5 player, and I think he can get to be a top 3 player. Do I think he can ever be the best player in the league? It's really hard for me to say that as a guy who is a negative on defense yet. I mean, Jokic is not a negative on defense. He's average
not as much as it's talked about. He's
Yeah,
very
right.
instinctual. He's always in
He
the
can
right
definitely
spot.
be a positive, and he's a positive, and when it matters, for sure. I think of him more as a positive than not. So that's what separates them at top 5 to number 1 best player in the league. But yeah, Luka's the best player on this entire
On this list.
core list.
Yeah.
But also, I do like the defensive players they got. So I think they're going to also help make Luka better if they play these guys, Omax Prosper and Derek Lively from
I
Duke.
love the Derek Lively pick. Obviously, Duke guy, but Derek Lively, he just fits exactly what they need, right? That's what they were looking for in JaVale McGee. Except you have Derek Lively, has a lot more potential there. He's a lot younger. And I think he'll be a good lob threat for Luka. I think that's going to be easy money. And then he's going to be able to protect Luka's backside, which is the most important thing.
You got
because he's a premier shot blocker. Then you got guys like Josh Green, Jaden Hardy, who I actually really like as well. Yeah, I actually like
And here's
that
one
pick.
you don't think about. Here's one you don't think about. Is Grant Williams still 24? He matters
Grant Williams
here.
is 24. I had him listed on this list with Luka, Lively, Hardy as like my top prospects for this team. I'll let you know. I have Dallas actually number. Excuse me.
All right.
I'm trying to think where I'm at. So they're actually number 2 on my list right now.
Okay, so
Obviously,
you got
Luka.
3 yet. We're on number 4 here, but Jaden Hart. So outside of Luka, obviously it's not Grant Williams. He's basically close to tapped out, I'd say. But
Yeah,
out of those other guys, I mean, Jaden Hardy's my pick for highest ceiling.
yeah.
But it's going to be hard for him to reach a ceiling with
With Luka.
Kyrie. So
Oh, and Kyrie. Yeah, not even
yeah.
thinking about Kyrie.
So Jaden Hardy would be my pick, but I'd probably lean towards Omax Prosper or Lively. Lively probably getting the more minutes right away, I'd say. I don't know. Maybe they still fall in love with Dwight Powell. Who would you say had the second highest ceiling of that group?
Yeah. I would go with Hardy, but you point out the Kyrie situation. It's just going to be hard to see him getting like enough playing time for him to build out like an actual role with this team. But just from a talent standpoint, I would go with Hardy. As far as who do I think could make like an instant impact, I think Derek Lively is that guy that you could insert right into the starting lineup. Let him get his growing pains early on in the season, and by the end of the season, I think you'll at least have a rim protector there, full time, a guy that can catch lobs and dunk the basketball very easily. He's very athletic. But yeah, I'll have to honestly, I'll have to look into Omax Prosper a little bit more. I'm not as familiar with his game as
I'd honestly almost be cool with starting him right away.
Yeah, he's another guy you would just throw right in.
And it's only because of his defense. I don't expect him to do a lick on offense yet, but defensively, they just don't have any options, you know?
Yeah,
so
they don't have a lot.
I think they got to get after it
size.
often early, and he's worth worth taking a hit on.
Who do
So
you think their starting lineup is? Kyrie, Luka, Grant Williams starts?
yes, for sure.
Yeah,
And I bet my guess would be still let's see.
Dwight Powell.
Oh, probably Rashawn Holmes at center, Dwight.
Ah,
Um,
he's more
so
polished, yeah.
3 for sure. Grant Williams would be the third. But center's up for debate. Um,
I think they're
Josh
trying to
Green,
trade
Josh
JaVale
Green, I
McGee.
could see at the 3 if they wanted to go small.
Yeah.
Like we didn't mention Josh Green. Like
Yeah, he's only 22.
his defense is very good. He could be an all NBA defender. And he shot 40% from 3
Yeah.
last year.
I was gonna say he's that prototypical 3-and-D type of guy.
Yeah, his percentages have gone up every year. He's added more to his game every year.
Yeah.
True shooting percentage was 65% last year. He's a winning player. Yeah. I'd almost have him start at 3, go small, and then have a big guy like JaVale McGee even or somebody.
Yeah.
Um,
No, Dallas is an interesting team, man. They've been trying to build around Luka. It
underrated
obviously
supporting
starts with
pieces, and
defense, though.
I think they're finally getting there to a core outside of Luka I can start to believe in.
Yeah. It's interesting, man. You know who else has been in the league? It feels like forever, but he's only 24. Frank Ntilikina, man, from the New York Knicks days, right? He was like the number 8 pick whenever they drafted
Screw
him.
that guy. He's done, dude.
He's
done.
It's funny though that he's still in the league, man, because
I
it
shouldn't
seems like
say
he's
screw
just
that
never
guy.
gotten better.
Nice guy,
Um,
I'm sure.
Number 3 for me, Meg. So Dallas is number 2 for me. We talked a good bit about them. Number 3 for me. This one may or may not surprise you, but I have the Memphis Grizzlies at number 3. And
All right, so
go ahead. What were you gonna say?
I'll just say I have the Spurs at 3. I have Memphis at 2, and then we'll save my last one.
Okay, I'm interested to see who you have at number 1, because if you don't have them at number 1, which I don't think you do, we're gonna completely disagree on them. Obviously,
I can't wait.
think it's for one specific reason we're gonna disagree there. But
So Memphis, we talked the Spurs already. What we got at Memphis?
Memphis,
You have them.
Ja Morant, Jaren Jackson Jr. I mean, I think it's as simple as that. But they do also have some nice key pieces there. Zaire Williams, Aldama got some major playing time last year. Roddy, he's a good young player. Josh Christopher, LaRavia, Kenny Lofton Jr. So they have a plethora of young depth there. Even Tillman, he's another guy that's only 24 years old. He's a solid role-playing bench piece. But it starts with the top level talent. Ja Morant obviously needs to get his head on straight. That's going to be the hardest part for him. But Jaren Jackson Jr. already a perennial defensive player of the year candidate. Think he can get much, much better on the offensive end, just as far as efficiency, taking the right shots, being in the right places. But the biggest thing for him, right, foul trouble. He's just got to learn how to be disciplined on the defensive end. He has so much
and off the court
talent, length there, but just being disciplined, man. Yeah.
Foul play, foul trouble.
Exactly. Between the 2 top guys on their roster, you got foul play off the court and then foul trouble on the court.
How does a guy that fouls that much win defensive player of the year? Still boggles my mind. Drives me nuts.
Yeah. That's a conversation, I guess, for another day. But yeah,
propaganda, agenda.
Because part of defense is discipline and keeping yourself in the game, right? Being available. I think that's the biggest part of defense in a sense. So for him to be a guy that fouls out constantly or is constantly in foul trouble, just not there for his team in the bigger moments, it doesn't make sense in that front. But the potential's there, the skill is there, the talent's there. Just needs to put it all together, of course. But that is ultimately why I have Memphis here at number 2.
They could easily be 1 here, just like my tier 1 goes from my number 1 team down to 8 in Minnesota because of the best player. These guys have the most polished players already. It's their ceiling for me. Why they aren't higher? Like I still have these guys capped at a conference finals appearance. I don't think this team can win yet. I just need to see a little more. However, they would be number 1 in this list for me if we did this a month ago when Desmond Bane was
Desmond
24.
Bane. Yeah, he's
Yeah,
25
it's
now.
just like Shea. It's like if he was on this list, they'd be number 1. But
Right.
that's how crazy and close it is. Like I
Yeah.
still consider like 25 and under young core too, but we did 24 to keep this straight. But honestly, Desmond Bane could become an all-star. Wouldn't shock me. They could have 3 all-stars on this team.
Yeah.
He's so underrated yet. Like he's a
Yeah.
great two-way player. He just gets overshadowed by the top 2. Brandon Clark, Zaire Williams, great defense all around.
Brought in Marcus Smart.
Jake Laravia, David Roddy, all these guys, like they just always draft great depth, great talent. Pretty impressive. It's do you have them as a championship ceiling right now? Like if everybody on their team reached their full potential.
I would say so. If everybody on their team reaches full potential, because I'm sitting here looking at Ja Morant.
My thing is, yes, if they reach their full potential, but I say no because they have the 2 best players that are injury prone. Like
Yeah.
I just don't see that happening. Like
In their game, that's not going to change. That's their game. That's the best parts of their game is putting their body in the air, being an acrobat, right? And specifically Ja for that front, the way he lands is just, it's scary. Each time that he lands, you saw it in the playoffs when he kept hurting his wrist or his hands. So, from that front, while I would say if they can all reach their potential, right? If Jaren Jackson is all first team defense, turns into an 18 to 20 point scorer per night, stays out of foul trouble. Ja Morant turns into a top 15, top 10 player, right? Plays up to that potential as he should be, right? It's asking a lot, though. That's asking for a lot. Desmond Bane turning into an all-star, right? There's a lot of things that are factored in there. Brandon Clark is coming off an Achilles tear, right? So Steven Adams, is he going to be healthy this year? Marcus Smart, how does that fit in with Ja and Desmond Bane? So these are all things that I would look at. They have the tools, but can they put it all together? Can they stay healthy? That's going to be the biggest question mark. I would ultimately go with no, this is not a championship team for me. But to your point, if they could reach that potential, maybe.
All right, last question on the Memphis Grizzlies is outside their big 3, pick the next guy with the highest ceiling. I will say Jake Laravia averaged 18 in 4 games in Summer League. Good percentages too. Kenneth Lofton, even better percentages, 51 and 47 from 3. He averaged 18. And how many rebounds that dude? Quite a bit. 7 boards. So they got guys that can fill it up.
You got David Roddy too, just like seems to fit their culture, if that makes sense. Zaire Williams, 6'9", floor space. He didn't shoot the ball very well last year, though. If I had to pick one, man, Laravia is interesting just because of what he provides around Ja and Desmond Bane. He provides like something different in a sense, or shouldn't say different, but he fits well, right? He's able to shoot the ball, can handle off the dribble a little bit. So I would go with him. He's only 21 years old. He has all the tools I feel to be successful next to those guys. Shot 34% from the 3. Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right, yeah.
So you're choosing Laravia?
Yeah, I would go with Laravia out of the guys that you mentioned. But I would say it's close. I mean, guys like David Roddy, Kenny Lofton Jr., they do fit that culture down there in Memphis.
Absolutely.
So who do you have at number? You said number 2, you have Memphis.
So we're on to my number 1. Did you say your number 2?
My number 2 is my number 2 was Dallas.
Okay, so we touched on Dallas then.
3 Memphis, 2 Dallas, and then my number 1 is going to be the New Orleans Pelicans. Surprise, surprise.
Love it, bro.
And you know where I'm coming at with this. depending where you are at with Zion Williamson is going to
That's
determine
fair.
where you put this team. I still am going to put my full belief into Zion because that's just who I am. That's the Duke blood that's running inside of me. But you look at
I
this guy
love
when
it.
he's on the court. Availability matters. That's gonna be what determines Zion's career,
Sheesh.
his health, his availability. But when he's on the court, you talk about a top 10 player. He is that. He is a guy that can catapult this team to great things. Then you throw in the likes of Herb Jones, who I think is a guy that any team needs. You talk about a defensive prowess, 3-and-D caliber guy. He has a potential to become that. He's not that yet. Murphy the third, man, that is my guy. You talk about a guy that, once again, would fit on almost any team. He spaces the floor.
Yes.
He has limitless range. He's athletic. He's long. Can do a little bit of everything. Absolutely love Trey Murphy the third. Then you get to guys like Hawkins, right, who's a rookie this year. Can shoot the laces off the ball. I thought that was a great pick for them. He's a guy that can fit seamlessly, just like Trey Murphy in a sense, right beside Zion, knows where to find his spots, right? And then Dyson Daniels, I think he's another piece there that long, lengthy, can handle the ball, do a little bit of everything. Obviously just needs to work on his shooting, but he's another piece there. They're building kind of a archetype that they like, right? Between Herb Jones, Trey Murphy the third, and so on and so forth. You can go to the rest of the team, obviously, but I love of Alvarez as well. Just love the character that he brings to the team, but obviously he's a little bit over the age limit there. Zion, 23 years old. Trey Murphy, 23 years old. They even have guys like E.J. Liddell, Kyra Lewis, who have some untapped potential there. Yeah, Darion Sebron, even a little bit from what I saw of him in the summer league, man, he looked all right.
Deep cut.
No, yeah, that's a little bit deeper than we need to go here on the core, but nonetheless, Zion rounds this out for me. That's ultimately why they come at number one, because I think Zion, if he can stay healthy, it's a huge if, and if that throws them off the list for you, I understand that. But my belief in Zion is ultimately what drives them up to number one for me, man.
Fair enough. So they are number 13 for me. Okay.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, I love it. So it's them and OKC for us. Are the two big separators. Otherwise, our lists are pretty close overall. I will say this: if I believed in Zion like you, they'd be so much higher. But I don't.
Yeah.
I
know
don't.
You're a believer in availability, so that's consistent.
It's everything.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I am consistent. So Jordan Hawkins, he was 7 on my board. Love Jordan Hawkins. If CJ wasn't there, I'd say he has almost all-star ceiling. If Brandon Ingram wasn't there, my Trey Murphy's been on my show. I love him. Great mentality. I think he would have all-star potential. But those are the two guys I'm really high on outside of Zion. But yeah, I could see it. You could end up being right if Zion's healthy. So it all comes down to that for sure. A huge if. It's an insanity for sure. With that said, my number one. Bump it a bump bump bum. The Houston Rockets.
I feel you. I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you, I teetered. I teetered from them from all the way from number one down to number 4, where I had them 4 or 5 here. Yeah, so 4. Yeah, I'm interested to hear what you got to say about the Houston Rockets, though, because I know you're very in depth with them.
All right, so we'll make this quick. I gotta bounce here, but honestly, I think the team as is has championship potential if they reach their core. I mean, if they reach their potential, I really do.
What would be your year span on that?
Well, by next year, not this year, I think they should be able to make the playoffs this year. By next year, they should be able to make second round conference finals. By year 3, I could see a championship. I really do. So 3 years from now, essentially. With that said, I think Jabari Smith could be a top 20 player. I think Jalen Green can be a top 15 player. But that's at their ultimate ceiling. I'm not predicting they'll get there. I think that's if they reach it. Amen Thompson super high on him. I think he could be a top 25 player. Cam Whitmore, but like Cam Whitmore, I've seen some people throw him out for dark horse rookie of the year. Don't think he's getting that opportunity year one. I really don't think he gets much above 20, 25 minutes. But I love their team 1 through 8. I really do. They fit perfectly. They just got to be coached up. We're about to see if Ime's got it in them. They could, being these guys, a lot of them aren't proven. They could fall down my list very quickly. But at this moment, because there's so many unknowns, that's why they're number 1, and that's why I can believe in them till I can't.
I get it, because there's so many options that could hit for them, right? You have a ton of options that could hit and become a star for them, and I think that's the biggest thing with the Houston Rockets.
I will say, just like what I'm doing with Houston right now, I was right about Denver, I was right about Phoenix, and I was right about Atlanta 3 years ago. I was pretty proud of all 3 of those call outs. I'd said they could all make deep runs, and they did with their cores that they had. This is how I'm feeling about these guys now. They have the depth, they have the fits, they have the talent. They just got to get it done now. They just got to grow.
Yeah, they just need the
Stay
time
healthy.
to grow. Yeah.
Right.
No, I agree
Their
there.
biggest problem is going to be the minutes distribution. I mean, Tyrese and Cam Whitmore, they need their full minutes to develop.
And whose minutes is Dillon Brooks going to eat into as well? That's something to keep in mind for them. So, no, I'm with you. I know you got to get out of here, so we'll make this outro a little bit quicker. But nonetheless, that's going to round out our top 10 young cores. Had mostly the same throughout, a little bit of variation as far as where each young core was placed. The teams that I had kind of honorable mentions, just to mention them here, we both did not have Indiana on the list. Obviously, Tyrese Halliburton pioneers that team. Toronto, Atlanta, you mentioned with Trae Young. He's also 24 years old. Did not make either of our lists, but just some things to think about. Nonetheless, we will be back next Tuesday, right at our regularly scheduled time. This one should be coming out around 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tonight. But nonetheless, we'll be back next Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with another episode. We're going to start breaking down team by team expectations, off-season outlook as far as what they did. But nonetheless, be sure to give my guy Zach Noble a follow on Twitter at Zach Noble. Be sure to give myself a follow if you don't mind at Scotty Drowned on Twitter. And of course, DSM Media at DSM_media. That's going to be it for this episode of Scotty Talks NBA featuring Zach Noble. We'll see you next Tuesday, guys. Peace.